Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm here to talk about Beyond the Gate Season 2, Episode 28. Now, before we begin, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. All right, so we start the episode off with Anita is on the phone with Dani, and Dani's at the country club, and she is inviting Anita. She's like, she's complimenting Anita on her hair, and it's just like, oh, you look really nice. You work in this new do. Then they talk about, black women and how their hair defines them or doesn't define them. They just talk about stuff like that. Dani lets her know that she's meeting Chelsea and Naomi, and she invites her to come down. But Anita's just like, next time, but give my grandbabies a hug and a kiss for me. So they get off the phone, and Vernon walks in, and he's just like, enamored by the way his boo looks, and he's just like, kissing on her, and he's just like, we could take this upstairs. And Anita's just like, oh, I can't resist you when you do stuff like that. And he was just like, all right, well, let's go then. Why we gotta wait till tonight? I was just like, Vernon, a little freak. And so he's just like, he's trying to get her to come inside. And then we see the kids coming in, and he's just like, well, hey, y'all, isn't this a school day? And they were just like, yeah, we're out for the day or whatever. And he was just like, okay, well, y'all got y'all after school activities. Me and the grand, we want to participate in our after school activities. And then that's when he finds out that Anita had invited them over there because they're going to practice cotilion stuff. So Jessica is, being extra or whatever, and she's just like, oh, I'm not really tripping, I'm just here just to be here, but I don't need any practice because I really don't care. And then Anita's just like, yeah, your dad called, and she was just like, so she tries to leave, and Anita's just like, sit where you are. So she starts to talk to them. She gives them shoes because they're going to learn how to waltz or dance. I think it's the waltz. I think that's what she taught them. Can't remember. So they're, they put on the shoes. Jessica complains that the heels are too high, and Samantha's complaining that the heels are too low. So they start practicing, and these two don't know how to dance. Well, not that they don't know how. Well, yeah, because Samantha makes fun of Terrell. Also, Vernon saying that the rhythm eludes him because he ain't got none basically. So they're trying, and they're Anita's trying to tell her like don't lead. He's supposed to lead. Telling Tyrell like you're supposed to be like it's about her. You're supposed to be making her look good, and they're just not getting it. So Vernon is just like, let's show him how it's done. So he and Anita dance, and they do the little, they do the waltz or whatever. So then the next thing they do is they do the entrance, and Samantha does her entrance, and she does phenomenal, of course. And then Jessica does it, and she just stomping and stuff. And then he was just like, baby girl, I thought we was over. I thought we was getting better. We was okay with this. Like, what's going on with you? And she's just like, I really just don't like. And so Anita gives her a pep talk, and she's just like, you are an honorary Dupree on the day of the cotillion. Um, this is supposed to be your entrance, your awakening. Like, this is about you. You let's show them how it's done. So she redoes her walk or whatever. So she does better the second time around or whatever. So um, they're all happy. They do the practice, and so they're getting ready to leave, and Anita's telling y'all practice, practice, practice. And then she almost makes a dig about death, and then they look at her like, and then Anita's just like, oh. And Vernon is just like, what my wife is trying to say is practice makes perfect. So they give them hugs and then they leave or whatever. Um, and then Anita goes to walk them out, and Vernon gets a text from Dani checking on Anita, and he tells her that she's okay. So we see again, because Dani was on the phone with Anita and she had walked in, she was at the club. So we see Anastasia and her, we meet her granddaughter, Francesca, and they are talking about the Duprees, because the last time we seen Anastasia, her and Anita had got into it. So they're, talking about how the Duprees think they're better than us and it ain't gonna happen. And then they start talking about Samantha and her grandma. I'm not her grandma, but her mom being an addict, and she used to live on the street and now she works at Orphe Jeans. Um, they see Dani sitting there, so they walk up to. They see Dani walking in, and Anastasia is like, it's now is a perfect time to put them in their place or whatever. So they walk up to Dani, and Anastasia introduces her granddaughter again to Dani, and Dani is just like, "Oh my God, friend," just like talking about how she was just like, oh, she's shocked to see her, she's all grown or whatever. And this little girl gonna talk about, oh, you're that old model. Child, that done set Dani off. Dani said, still am a model, and I see that you have, you've grown into your looks and you no longer have your starter nose. And she was just like, this is my nose. And she was just like, yeah, I bet. I was just like, Daddy, why you going in on this little girl? Daddy is a mess. So, they're just like, as if. So they go and sit down, and Dani's waiting on her girls to come in. The first one that comes is Nicole. No, is it no, her Naomi, my bad. So Naomi comes, and she's just like, Dani's asking her how she's doing, and she's just like, good, good. And Dani's just like, one word answers, okay, what's wrong? And she's just like, well, I can't really talk about work, but me and Jake are good. He's working, and he's doing long hours and all this other stuff. So she's like, whatever. So Chelsea comes, and they get up and they're like, yay, and they give her like a big hug, and they're all like excited or whatever. So Dani is just like, Chelsea is just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're not like being like super extra talking to Dani. And Dani was just like, baby girl, that's because I'm in love. Like, I like, you love is good and all this other stuff. And she talks about, just being in love and it being better with Andre than it was with um than with Bill, and because he supports her and he knows her and all this other stuff. So um she, like, after Dani is done, Naomi is just sitting there just like, so Dani was just like, taps her like, girl, say something. So she was just like, I was so happy that you and Madison called me last night to tell me that y'all are engaged, and I'm just so happy for you. And then Chelsea was just like, please don't tell me there's a but. And she was just like, but. And she was just like, Mom and Chelsea, marriage is more than just love. And she goes into talking about how basically she don't want to be married no more. And it's just like, girl, please divorce him. Like, at this point, I just need you to divorce him, because girl, girl. So they're looking at her like, what's going on with you and Jacob? And they don't really say anything. Then Chelsea talks about how, she's so excited, but she feels like she is um she oh no she tells she tells Naomi that she loves Madison and she's ready, but she's worried that Madison is going to regret not taking that the job the job offer thingy, and and then she's just like, she just feels away because she doesn't want her to later, like, later down the line, be like, like one day wake up and be like, oh my God, I should have done X, Y, and Z. And so Dani asked her, do you think I regret? Or, I can't remember if Dani asked her, if she asked Dani about her, stopping modeling for when she was with Bill. And Dani basically was just like, she doesn't regret anything. She loved the life that she lived. And she's happy or whatever. So, yeah, she's happy or whatever. So the Anastasia and her granddaughter come up to them and they're asking them like, oh, so what was what were y'all talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. Before this, Dani, they do a toast to the Dupree woman because they're on top or whatever. So Anastasia and her granddaughter come up and ask like, what was that? Why were they so happy? And Dani was just like, family business. Like, girl, why are you asking me questions that ain't none of your business? Girl, get from my face. Get from around me. Look, get from around me. So she was just like, my word. Like, girl, what did you think she was gonna say? She wasn't gonna tell you. So before Anastasia leaves, she makes mention of Anita looking a little green the last time that she saw her or whatever. So that's when Dani had text Vernon to check on Anita, and he was just like, everything's okay. So we see Ashley and Shanice, they're at work and it's slow, and Ashley's complaining about it being slow, and um, Shanice is telling her, girl, don't jinx it. Like, when it's slow like this, just be happy. Like, girl. And she was just like, there's nothing that I can say that's going to make those elevator doors open. And then as soon as she says it, the elevator doors open, and here come Bill and his con artist wife in a wheelchair. So he, no, he wants to check on them or what. He wants them to check on her because I can't even remember what it was. So they check on her, they take her to a room or whatever, and um they check on her, take her to her room. She gets a doctor to check on her. The doctor tells her everything is fine or whatever. Ashley comes back and tells her everything is fine. They want to discharge her, but Bill is just like, maybe we should get a second opinion. And Haley is just like, no, everything is okay. I'm fine. I just want to go to the hotel. And Haley is just like, the hotel? And she's just like, oh, that's right. They have your ID and all of this stuff or whatever. So she was just like, oh, I feel bad or whatever. So Ashley goes back to the nurse's station and she talks to Shanice, and she's just like, me and Haley aren't on, we don't talk no more, but I still, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And what man would just haul off and hit a woman like that or whatever. So we see Bill and Haley, they leave the hospital or whatever, and they go to the hotel, and he's doting on her just like she wants him to or whatever. And they go to bed and they sleep together, and he was just like, is this better? Like, happy that, just making sure, he was just like, I want to make sure that you're okay or whatever. And she was just like, yeah, that was perfect. She asked him, what you said about early, and he was just like, she was just like, what you said about you putting me first, and he was just like, yeah. She was just like, before Dani too, and he was just like, you're my wife. And she was just like, yeah, yeah, but she says something about Dani, and then he was just like, let's, we made vows, and those vows are more important now than ever. And she was just like, oh, I remember our vows barely, because I also remember Dani pew-pewing our wedding or whatever. And he was It's like, girl, you did all of this so that he would take his mind off of Dani, but you keep bringing Dani up. Like, do you think that that's going to keep his mind off of Dani with you keep bringing her up? Like, what? Like, Dani is not thinking about you. You are the one that got Dani on your brain, girl. Like, that man ain't thinking about Dani in this moment. Why would you bring her up when y'all are in bed? Like, Haley, what is wrong with you? You not that good of a con artist because, ma'am. So, anyways, he was just like, let's redo our vows. So they say their vows in bed or whatever. So we see when what's this girl's name? Child. When Shanisa was at the hospital or whatever. Um what where was it? Sorry. Uh Lord, I forgot. What happened next? What happened next? What happened? Oh yes, when Shanice and Ashley were at the were sorry, once Ashley was in the she was in the waiting, not the waiting area, in the cubicle. Is it a cubicle? Child, wherever they take the patients. She was in there with Haley and Bill. Shanice was still at the nurses station, like checking them in and all this other stuff. And Kyle came up and he was just asking, like, oh, what's that about? Because he had seen Haley and Bill, going to the waiting room. Wherever they go, wherever they take the patients. I can't think, the hospital room, whatever. He was just like, what's that about? And she was just like, I'd rather see patients come in than not come in or whatever. And they start talking or whatever, and then they start talking about hands or his magical hands or something like that. And Nicole comes up and she hears them, and they start flirting or whatever. And they make a date to go to uptown. So she was just like, okay, let me go home and change and I'll meet you there. So they go to uptown, and she got her little freakum dress on, and they're flirting with each other. And then they start making out, and it's just like, girl, why are you making out with this man like that? Girl. So they making out like just all out in the open, and Carlton comes up. So Carlton is just like, shocked, because it's just like, I knew you said you were dating other people, but I didn't expect to actually see you dating other people. And it's just like, but she told you she was dating other people. So you really can't get mad. Sorry, Carlton. I can't be on your side for this one. So he's upset, really. And then, I mean, not Carlton. What's this man's name? Kyle. Kyle is, did I say his name earlier? I may not have, my bad. So Kyle goes and gets her a drink, and then they're talking. That's when Carlton and Nicole are talking. And he's just basically, I wasn't expecting this. And she was just like, I don't know why, but this doesn't change anything between us, but that's up to you. And he was just like, okay. And then he leaves. So she's asking, Kyle comes back with the drinks, and she's asking him, like, how did you feel about that? And he was just like, I don't care. Like, you where I'm at. I'm in the same place that you at. We both dating. We having fun with whoever we having fun with. So they start to dancing, and just dancing all out in the open. And it's just like, I don't know if this is a club or what this is, this place. But yeah, so they're dancing or whatever. They get a round of applause, and they kiss or whatever. And she's just like, and he's saying something to her, and she was just like, let's go. So they, yeah, she was just like, let's go. So they go to her, they go back to her place, and then they sleep together or whatever. We see Carlton, he goes to the hospital. He runs into Shanice, and he tells Shanice that he saw Kyle and Nicole, and he's feeling some type of way. And let me see, was that the episode? Yeah, that was the episode. So that was about it. Yeah, that was not a lot happened in this episode, but it was a cute little episode. But make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications. Get down in the comments. Tell me, guys, what you thought about this episode. And I will see you guys in the next one.